My name is Mariana Abrantes. I am a board member of the Sousa Mendes Foundation, and I am speaking to you from Portugal, from central Portugal, only a few miles away from the remarkable Sousa Mendes Museum, where you can learn more about the extraordinary rescue actions of our hero in 1940, when few people could imagine the full dimension of the Holocaust. Today, we're pleased to have you here for this very special program. We will learn about the extraordinary resistance of a young woman in 1943 when the horrendous reality of the Holocaust was perhaps at its peak, but still mostly hidden. We will hear about Franceska Mann, a Polish Jewish ballet dancer who rebelled and killed a Nazi guard at Auschwitz as she was being led to the gas chambers. You have seen the film, Francesca, directed by Lina Chaplin, which tells her dramatic story. Let us hear from our speakers, which I would like to introduce now, and who will tell us more about this. So we will hear first from DANIELA REISS, who is the producer of this Israeli documentary film, Francesca. She has worked with some of Israel's most respected documentary directors, including Lina Chaplin. Her production credits include In Secret, Underground Ballet, 80 and Counting, and Voices from the Booth. As an archival researcher, DANIELA has also contributed to acclaimed films and series. A meticulous approach to sourcing historical materials has helped shape powerful narratives in a wide range of subjects, from diplomacy to security, economy, identity, and dance. Then we'll hear from Matan Shefi. He was born in Israel and now lives in Warsaw, where he has worked since 2013 at the Jewish Historical Institute. He conducted research in Polish archives for this film, and his work contributes to a better understanding of Jewish life in Poland now and then in the 1940s. He has also worked with other documentary projects, including Who's Afraid of Alice Miller and Terrace 43, Finding the Warsaw Landscape of Today in Wartime Pictures. And lastly, but not least, we will hear from my friend and colleague, Dr. Mordecai Paldiel, who headed the Righteous Among the Nations Department at Yad Vashem from 1982 to 2007. His books include The Path of the Righteous, Diplomat Heroes of the Holocaust, Saving One's Own, and Righteous or Not, The Honoring of Rescuers of Jews. He serves on the B'nai B'rith Commission to honor Jewish rescuers of Jews during the Holocaust, and he's also on the board of the Sousa Mendes Foundation. And he provided a list of 60 diplomat rescuers who were honored by the U.S. Congress in 2024 in the Forgotten Heroes of the Holocaust, a Congressional Medal Act, Gold Medal Act. Now, let us start with DANIELA, the producer who brings us this dramatic story. DANIELA, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for letting me in. So my name is DANIELA REISS. I live in the desert in Israel. I live in Sde Boker, Ben Gurion's village. I've been working with Lina Chaplin for over 35 years. We've been doing films, documentaries mainly since the beginning of the 90s. Lina is now 92 years old, and we've been working on Francesca for over 5 years. We are still working. Just in the last month, we came out with our new documentary after Francesca, and now we are working on 2 new projects. And she is 92, as I said, and still live and kicking. So she's the director of this project, and she came up with this idea during the previous project that named the Underground Ballet, which was a film about ballet company in Jerusalem, was situated in in a very bizarre place under the chairs of the Beitar Yerushalayim, which is a soccer team in Jerusalem, and that's where the studio is located. And we did a film about the woman who established this company, the ballet company, which is the highest level ballet company in Israel nowadays. And while we were filming this film, we found out that the company is working on a new ballet, Memento, which you can see a picture of it. And they were working about Franceska Mann's story life. And we were astonished by the story, which we never heard before. And Lina had a very, very good friend in Warsaw, which they grew up together in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, long time ago, in the 50s, and even before. And she tried to start the research for us in Warsaw and to understand who is this lady, Franceska Mann, because there was almost nothing about her. And we started from scratch. We didn't know anything. And I was looking for somebody who is specialist in the Jewry of Warsaw, and I found Matan. And from there it was much easier because Matan took us hand by hand in Warsaw, in the academic world and in the professional people, about everything you can think about, ballet between the two wars in Warsaw, about Holocaust, about all kinds of issues during the Holocaust, the cultural life in the Warsaw Ghetto, the police, the Jewish police in the Warsaw Ghetto. For everything, we met somebody that Matan took us to meet. We were twice in Warsaw, traveling there with a 90-year-old lady, which was really wonderful because we had a very professional team together with Matan. We had Kasia Iskara, which is a Polish, very involved into Holocaust lady who helped us a lot. And that's how we started. As a matter of fact, we didn't know how to start, so we asked Matan to make a genealogy. How do you say it, Matan? Genealogic research,
Genealogical.
like genealogical research, family research about her, and we found almost nothing. But from this nothing, we started the film, and at the beginning we had like 12 images of Franceska Mann before the war, and just to have an idea, in a film, an image can hold the screen just for 3 seconds, 4 seconds at the most if you play with it. So we had almost 1 minute to start with visual, because it's not an academic essay. In a film, you have to show something to be visual. And it was a very, very tough mission to cope with. But we took the challenge. After Matan did his initial research, we started together with this lady I mentioned before in Warsaw. We started to find testimonies, recorded testimonies in various webs, and this web is one of them. It's in California University. It's the Spielberg project, which recorded and recorded thousands of Holocaust survivors. Each one of them is talking to the camera for about 2 to 3 hours, and it was quite a tough job to go through thousands of testimonies around the world and to find the accurate sentences, the accurate syncs for our film concerning the cultural life in the ghetto. We drew stations in Francesca lives, and we looked for people who could talk about it as much as interesting as possible. So we looked about the Warsaw before the war and the ballet life in Warsaw before the war. And we looked for people who were talking about this, for example, is Vera Gran. She is a very famous Polish singer who lived in France after the war, in Israel as well for a while. And she was a very good friend of Francesca during their youth in Warsaw before the war and afterwards in the ghetto as well. And she even in her testimony mentioned Francesca's name as a friend in the ghetto. So we went through hundreds, thousands of testimonies, listening to many, many people, talking about Bergen-Belsen, because Francesca went through Bergen-Belsen, as you see, and afterwards about testimonies that can tell us about this incident in Auschwitz, which we didn't know if exists at all. At the end, we found about between 40 to 50 testimonies who spoke about this incident in the gas chamber in 23 October 1943. And each one of them is telling a completely different story, as if it was a complete different universe. Some of them were eyewitness, some of them were rumor. They heard it as a rumor. Some of them were Sonderkommando, some of them were somebody told somebody who told somebody who told somebody. Just 3 months before we closed the picture of the film, I found a man that mentioned her name in this event, like saying, "Did you hear the name Franceska Mann?" The film is starting with it, and then he tells the story very shortly, and that was something I found just 3 months before we closed the film, which that is a researcher's life. You can work for 5 years and find the best cherry just at the end. I just want to show you an example of what is research. We found this nice lady who spoke about the act of burning the ghetto in Warsaw. And she was saying this in the film that she somehow she managed to escape, and she watched the ghetto burning from the Aryan side, and she heard somebody standing next to her saying to the other guy, to the other Polish guy, look how the Jews are burned like flies in the ghetto. And I said to myself, I have to find this POV. I have to find this image of somebody who is looking from outside, from the Aryan side, into the burning ghetto. And I had so much luck to find this in the Polin Museum, which was really just about the time we've been working on the film. They found this in an attic somewhere in Warsaw. And this frame I adore this frame. I think it tells a great story of the film. That's about it. I would like to present Matan, who is a very dear friend and a brilliant researcher who helped us a lot. Please, Matan.
Thank you, Daniela, and thank you for the Sousa Mendes Foundation for this opportunity to be speaking with you. It was a pleasure working on the film and the story of Franciszka. I will use her name in Polish, Franciszka Mann or Manówna. I think it's a great story, and I'm very lucky to having been a part of you telling this important, interesting, and not very well-known story. And I remember when we started working about the film, I might even have I presented a research paper to you and called it The Three Lives of Franceska Mannovna. In the 10 minutes I have, this is what I would like to talk about. Because, and you can start the presentation, Franceska Mannovna is and was well known for three different things in three different times, and at least had three different claims to fame. She was born in Warsaw in 1917 to um, middle class Jewish merchant family. She started dancing from a very young age, and she danced in different styles. She studied ballet, she studied classical dancing, she studied folk dancing and jazz, and what was called at the time expressional dancing. She also flirted with movies or other or theater and other spectator arts. And you could see her if you would go two slides back, please. You can see her on the cover. One slide more. This is a magazine cover called Sztuki Film, so art and film. And this talks about there were a few articles, and she was on the cover of a very well-known or a high circulated, let's say, Polish magazine talking about popular arts, music, film, etc. So she was an upcoming star, you might say. She even participated in a film called Beautiful Poles, describing 20 different Polish women of different backgrounds to show the beautiful places, the beautiful faces, I'm sorry, of Poland and of Polish women. And so you can, next slide, please. This picture was taken in Zakopane, in the Mount Tatra Mountains in the south of Poland, on some kind of excursion with Ruth Sorel, a well-known American Czech dancer dealing with experimental and expressionist dancing. So Francesca was all over the place in those kind of terms and educated herself in different schools of dance. And she excelled in several of them. In 1937, she won the fourth prize in an international dance contest in Brussels, and she participated in a different international competition in Vienna the following year, and has made a name for herself. This is a full two-page interview with her, and the title here says the artistic, I'm sorry, success of Mannovna. And she talks about how she finds herself in different schools of class and how her personal life led her to this kind of profession and career. And then starts the war. And the war makes everything more difficult. The Jews of Warsaw are being closed in the ghetto, and people of the artistic branch and circles are trying to continue their normal behavior. You can see Mannovna, and you can see it here. Her name you can see her name in red, participating in some kind of recital and revue of different types of performances by singers, musicians, dancers, and other artists at the Warsaw Ghetto. And the person who's leading this is Diana Blumenfeld, wife of Jonas Turków, the head of the cultural department of the Warsaw Ghetto Judenrat. So the local Jewish administration and authorities held a cultural department to help organize and bring culture into the very miserable life in the Warsaw Ghetto. You can see moving forward that we even have her picture on stage in a performance in the ghetto. She's here, second from right. This is from summer of 1941, and she participates in some kind of artistic activities. Artistic life in the ghetto were very close to the German authorities. You could not have been a part of it. You could not have run a cafe or a theater without Germans' approval. And in many cases, Germans came from outside the ghetto to come as audience, and sometimes specific shows were put for them. So more or less, all of the artistic sphere was working with or vis-a-vis Germans, which made it kind of difficult. And around 1942, there are rumors that Manuvna is a collaborator with the Germans. And if you would go to the next slide, we would see a Polish underground report on Manuvna being a collaborator and being a lover of an SS officer. And this is the Polish national movement, Armia Krajowa, People's Army, underground, in a report from 1942. And if we would go forward, post-war information really shows us that Manuvna was kind of notorious in the ghetto as a collaborator. This is Vera Gran, shown previously. Daniela showed you her interview to the USC Shoah Foundation. But Vera Gran, who was a singer and actually a childhood friend of Manuvna, was accused for collaboration with the Germans. And she faced trial, communal trial by the Jewish community court. And she said, people are mixing me with Manuvna, and they're mixing the name Man and Gran. They knew that we were colleagues and friends from before the war. We danced together, etc., etc. And it's only the name that makes me guilty. It's guilty by association or because of her name is similar. And if you would go to the next slide, you would see someone corroborating for this. This is a testimony of Yerzy Urnadot, who's was an at the time, so was before the war, during the war, and after the war, a well-known writer. He wrote for different theater and critical revues in Warsaw, and he's saying that the mix between Gran, he doesn't know that Gran did anything of the sort, and they're mixing her with Mann and with a different and Weitland, two other women who were known as collaborators and were notorious as collaborators. And this is 1947. So if you would go to someone in 1937 and ask him who is Franceska Manuvna, he would tell you she's an aspiring dancer. If you would go to someone in 1947 in Warsaw, the survivors of the ghetto, and you would ask him who is Franceska Manuvna, he would tell you that she was a notorious collaborator because she died. And so this, at least at that time, this was what she was known for or remembered for. And then comes the Auschwitz story. And the Auschwitz story was well known from the post-war. There are different testimonies of this, different people from the Sonderkommando, and this part is very well told in the film. So I will not try to reply what you've seen and what you learned, but the understanding that this was Manuvna, that it was Franziska Mann who shot Schillinger at the gas chambers in Auschwitz, is done very late. We can see this from late 1970s. So until the 1970s, people might have remembered her as a dancer, and people might have remembered her as a collaborator from Warsaw Ghetto. But if you would search for her now, you would mostly hear about the heroism. And I think that this is quite interesting. It's the same person, and there's a great chance that the same character treaties that brought her to be this amazing aspiring dancer and to be a collaborator in the ghetto are the ones that led her to her actions within the gas chambers in Auschwitz. And I think that I have had my time, and it would be an honor to introduce Dr. Mordechai Paltiel, whose work has been introduced before me. So please.
Okay, thank you. And I will speak more about that dramatic event with Franceska Manowna, where she killed an SS man and she wounded another one And this is all based on one of the Sonderkommando persons, Philip Müller, who luckily survived, and he wrote about it and also spoke about it to Claude Lanzmann in the documentary film Shoah. Now, leading up to the event of where she shot the SS men, I have to point out that the Nazis were using deception even when addressing the people about to be gassed. SS officer Franz Hirschler, this is a photo of him in Bergen-Belsen when he was arrested by the British and was about to stand trial, and he was hanged. But of course, when he addressed the people in Auschwitz in the gas chamber, he had his uniform there. And he spoke politely, urging the people to hurry get undressed by using the following false argument. And this is what he said. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been instructed by the Foreign Ministry to organize your journey to Switzerland. This is your last stop on the territory of the Third Reich. We have brought you here because the Swiss authorities insist that each one of you must be disinfected before you cross the frontier. Here we have the facilities for carrying out large-scale disinfection proceedings. Please have your travel documents, passports, etc. ready so we can verify that you have been disinfected. Once more, may I point out that the Swiss authorities have declared that nobody will be allowed to cross the frontier without a certificate in his passport. Your special train is waiting at the station. May I end by wishing you a pleasant journey. Oh, I should mention that you can all see the boards with the letters of the alphabet which have just been brought in. Now please look at them carefully from A to Z. When you have dressed after your disinfection, kindly queue up at the board with the first letter of your surname, where you will be given a certificate confirming that you have been disinfected. Please also remember the number of your hook so that the necessary formalities can be dealt with as quickly and as smoothly as possible. Let me re-emphasize, it is the Swiss authorities who insisted on it. It is therefore in your interest to submit to this unavoidable procedure as quickly as possible. So please hurry up if you want to get away from here without delay. So after he finished that speech, it was followed by, there were two SS men strutting back and forth. And suddenly they stopped in their tracks, and they were attracted by a striking, handsome woman with blue-black hair who was taking off her right shoe. The woman, as soon as she noticed that the two men were ogling her, launched into what appeared to be a titillating, seductive striptease act. Now, this is all what Philip Müller wrote after the war. He was one of the Sonderkommando. And he describes, she lifted her skirt to allow a glimpse of her thigh and suspender. Slowly she undid her stocking and peeled it off her foot. From out of the corner of her eye, she carefully observed how the two SS men were fascinated by her performance and paid no attention to anything else. Their eyes were firmly glued on the woman. She took off her blouse and steadied herself against a concrete pillar with her left arm, and she bent down slightly, lifting her foot in order to take off her shoe. Then, as in a flash, she grabbed her shoe and slammed its heel violently against one of the SS men's forehead. She then flung herself at him and made a quick grab for his pistol. And then there was a shot. The SS man cried out and fell to the ground. Seconds later, there was a second shot aimed at the other SS man, which also felled him, but not fatally. A panic broke out in the undressing room, with the unknown young woman disappearing in the crowd. At any moment, she might appear somewhere else and aim her pistol at another of the SS executioners. Well, after a while, a few SS men came in and dragged the wounded man hastily to the door. Then the light went out and it turned pitch dark. After a while, the main door flung open. 2 machine guns had been set up, with steel-helmeted SS men opening up with a rattle of fire. A terrible bloodbath began of the people in the undressing room. The others tried to avoid the fire and ran into the gas chamber room. The end result was 1 SS man was dead, another severely wounded. The news spread all over Auschwitz, with people wondering the identity of that brave woman who also died in the gas chamber. Of course, today we know she was Franceska Mann, a professional ballerina dancer. Now I'd like to turn to another incredible story that took place the following year, in March 44, that of a known as the family camp in Auschwitz. Nobody could find a valid reason why it was that a group of thousands of Jews that had arrived from the Theresienstadt ghetto in occupied Czechia had been spared the walk to the gas chamber, and why their living conditions were by comparison better than those of the other prisoners. They were never used as forced laborers. They were allowed to write 1 postcard every month and received 1 parcel from the outside. Pregnant women and babies were given small quantities of milk, butter, and even white bread. Children under 6 went to a nursery school, while the older children were taught by Jewish teachers supervised by Freddie Hirsch. You see his picture, Freddie Hirsch, the prisoner in charge of the children's welfare. In the family camp, there existed an excellent orchestra in which on occasions had to perform before the SS, including Josef Mengele, who came to watch them. There was even a sort of a hospital, and all this in a place where not 100 meters away, the gas chambers were killing thousands of people each day. Why did the Nazis allow this charade? It is assumed that this was part of a Nazi deception plan in case the Red Cross wished to visit Auschwitz as they visited Theresienstadt, but which they did not. Then suddenly the news spread that the family camp people that existed for 6 months were to be gassed in a few days. Some of the Jewish workers in the gas chamber facility felt that the family camp people must be warned of what was waiting for them and tried to convince them that their one chance of survival lay in offering resistance. They were urged to set their barracks on fire. Then, in the resultant confusion, tried to break through the barbed wire into the rest of the camp. The gas chamber workers, known as Sonderkommando, promised that they would simultaneously stage a rebellion, destroy the crematorium buildings, and fight with the SS, and with a bit of luck managed to escape into the mountains. However, the people in the family camp did not believe the peril they were in. They had enjoyed so many privileges that the idea that there might be gas seemed unbelievable. Why, they asked, had they been taken here with their families and left unmolested all this time if it had been intended to kill them? Freddie Hirsch, the man in charge of the children and the young people, felt that if they resisted, they might have to witness the slaughter of their wives and children. This made him recoil. If death was if death was inevitable, then it was better to rather die together in the gas chamber. So Freddie Hirsch felt. Rudolf Verba, another Auschwitz prisoner, with connections of the camp underground, tried to persuade Freddie Hirsch to rise and fight back. Freddie Hirsch asked time to think it over, then suddenly committed suicide. When the thousands of family camp people were led into the gas chamber, they began to shout and cry, "We want to live! We want to work!" Some of them rushed to the exit door and were immediately shot. The rest were sobbing. The SS realized they had a problem on hand. SS officer Voss addressed them. He was different than Hirschler, who falsely promised them to be taken to Switzerland. He stated, "Now, what is the meaning of this, you Jews? Your hour has come. There is nothing in the world which can revert your fate. It is entirely upon you. If you are sensible, you can spare yourself and your children a great deal of distress. Everything will be much easier if you get undressed quickly and then move on into the next chamber. Suddenly, a voice began to sing, and it turned into a mighty choir. They all sang, first the Czechoslovak national anthem, and then the Zionist Hebrew song of Hatikva. Now, prisoner Philip Mueller, one of the Jewish workers in the gas chamber facility, he relates the following. When I watch my fellow countrymen, he also comes from Czechoslovakia, when I watched them walk into the gas chamber, brave, proud, and determined, I asked myself, what sort of life it would be for me in the unlikely event of my getting out of the camp alive. Who could replace my parents, my brother, or the rest of my family? And what of friends, teachers, and many members of the Jewish community? I then managed to mingle with the pushing and shoving crowd of people who were being driven into the gas chamber with the intention of dying with them. Then a group of girls, naked and in full bloom of youth, came up to me and gazed at me. At last, one of them spoke up. We understand that you have chosen to die with us of your own free will. And we have come to tell you that we think your decision is pointless, for it helps no one. One of the girls went on. We must die, but you still have a chance to save your life. You have to return to the camp and tell everybody about our last hours. And maybe you'll survive, and you'll tell the world. One more thing, the girl said. You can do me one last favor. This gold chain around my neck, when I'm dead, take it off and give it to my boyfriend, Sasha. He works in the bakery. Remember me to him. Say, I love you, Yana. The girls dragged me, protesting, to the door of the gas chamber. There they gave me a last push, which made me land right in the middle of the group of SS men. One of them knocked me down by a blow from his fist. As I stood up on my feet, he yelled at me, "You bloody shit, get it into your stupid head. We decide how long you stay alive and when you die, not you. Now, piss off to work on the ovens upstairs." Then he sucked me viciously in the face so that I landed in front of the elevator leading to the ovens upstairs. End of quote. Philip Mueller luckily survived and wrote about it, including what he witnessed of the ballerinas dancers shooting of the two SS men. Of course, he didn't know her name. And he also spoke in Claude Lanzmann's documentary film, Shoah. Mariana, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mordecai. Very interesting as usual. Very, very informative and touching. Please continue to put your questions in the chat box while I share some announcements about coming SMF events. Now, next week on Thursday, January 29th at 6 p.m., if you are in New York City, or you can get to New York City despite all the snow, please join the SMF group for an in-person reception and a panel discussion sponsored by us at the EVO Archive at the Center for Jewish History on 15 West 16th Street in Manhattan. This free panel discussion is jointly organized by the European Network of Remembrance and Solidarity, the EVO Institute of Jewish Research, the Center of Jewish History, and the United Nations Outreach Program, and that is supported by the Sosa Mendes Foundation. It accompanies the exhibition Between Life and Death, Stories of Rescue During the Holocaust, which has been on view at the United Nations since January 15th and goes on until February 20th. So you can catch it if you can still get there. I would also like to encourage the educators in our audience today to visit the Sousa Mendes Foundation website to learn more about our unique project, a Educators Institute in Portugal at the Sousa Mendes Museum nearby from the 5th to the 13th of July. I will meet you there if you can come. It's 1 week of transformative sharing and learning according to the participants in the 2024 program. Back online on February 8th, SMF will recall the life and the work of Hannah Arendt, one of the great thinkers of the 20th century we all admire. Anna came of age in Germany as Hitler rose to power. Before escaping via Lisbon to the United States as a Jewish refugee in 1941. Through her unflinching attention to facts and reality, Arendt gave us groundbreaking insights into the rise of totalitarianism, the refugee crisis, and the human condition. She was a famous witness at the Eichmann trial in Jerusalem. We're now going to see a trailer of the film about Hannah Arendt.
Never has our future been more unpredictable. Never have we depended so much on political forces that cannot be trusted to follow the rules of common sense. Forces that look like sheer insanity, if judged by the standards of other centuries.
Hannah Arendt was a fearless thinker and becomes one of the most prolific political writers of our time.
Anti-Semitism had been a feature of her life.
Hannah Arendt saw this. She was there. She was living there.
She escaped Nazi Germany, and she boards a boat bound for the United States. And that's where she writes, The Origins of Totalitarianism.
No one can ignore it. It's too important. At the same time, she becomes an American citizen.
A member of the Communist Party.
McCarthyism takes hold. It's very familiar.
In the 1960s, she became the voice of American politics.
Arendt sees this rise in violence that can threaten the norms and the institutions that preserve freedom in the United States.
I had a member of my family killed.
She sounds off a warning. She says you can actually destroy the Republic from within.
The crisis of our time has brought forth an ever-present danger that is only too likely to stay with us from now on. The questions that my generation has been forced to live with. What happened? Why did it happen? How did this happen?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that will be a very important program as well. So now let us pose your questions. I will start with one of the frequent questions, which was, how did Francesca actually die?
I think she went in with the others inside the gas. She knew she was doomed. She knew that the SS would seek special revenge. In order to avoid on that, she went in with the other people and she died in the gas chamber. But Philip Mueller writes that when they took out the bodies from the gas chamber, they were looking for her body. They wanted to have the pleasure to put her body into the oven, into the crematorium. But there wasn't. But she was dead, of course. She died in the gas chamber.
There are several versions, to the best of my knowledge. Some says that after the shooting, Hess brought a heavy machine, artillery, and they shot everybody, 1,800 people, at the entrance of the gas chamber. and
artillery, machine guns, yes.
machine guns, yes, and that's how, in some way, she saved everybody from the gas chamber. Okay, they were saved from being killed by a gas. Instead of that, they were shot, which is much better. Okay, in Auschwitz case.
And
Yes,
which postponed the killing of others because there was a lot of blood on the ground, and the SS they didn't want to bring in the next batch. They had to clean up the blood and dry it, and that held up the whole process. And so that saved the lives of some other people that they from the plan
Probably,
of having
yeah.
them killed on that day. Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Okay. Then we have a couple of questions about her family. One about her husband. What happened to him? Was she in touch with him in the ghetto? And when did and what
Okay,
happened to him? Did he die?
I can answer that.
And I'd like to put another together with that, which is what happened to her original family, to the Mann family.
All her family, together with the husband, arrived to Bergen-Belsen together, okay? And all of them went to Auschwitz on the same train. We know that for sure, according to the lists of that lady from Israel, from Savion, who her mother wrote those lists. So we know for sure that all the family arrived in this special train into Auschwitz on the 23rd October 1943. That is a fact, okay? In each myth, you have several facts. That is a fact, historical fact. From there are lots of versions, what happened next, but none of the family is known as a survivor, none of them. I saw somebody, with your permission, I saw somebody is asking about why was it needed to have police in the ghetto. Her husband was a policeman. The Jewish police in the ghetto. Okay, that was the question. It was a big issue, the Jewish police in the ghetto, and it was very vivid and full of activities in the ghetto. It was, I would say, maybe Matan can explain much better than me, but it was this link between the Gestapo, the Nazi, into the population in the ghetto. It was made by the police by the Judenrat and by the police as Matan. Why don't
Daniela,
you explain it
if you would
better?
allow.
Yeah, please.
First, about her family. So her father, Aaron Mannheimer, died in a train crash when she was 12 years old. I assume it was a suicide attempt because he had two tram/train crashes in the 6 months prior. So he wasn't there. And besides this, there's this list. We know that they came to Bergen-Belsen. In terms of why do you need a Jewish police? So the ghetto is a city. Warsaw Ghetto is basically a city of 450,000 people, and you need everything. You need people to take care of food, and you need sanitary, and you need hospitals, and you need culture, and you need police. So there is a Jewish police, and there are many better full books and works written about this. The chief of police is a converted Jew who was chief of police in Lublin prior. He was Jewish and converted into Christianity, and notorious. The underground tried to assassinate him. But the ghetto is just a city. You need everything that a city has, and police is a part of it. And being on the axis or the seam between German needs and the needs of the local population, everyone in the Jewish authorities were there on this line. It was just impossible not to be on that line.
May I ask a question to you, Matan? When we speak about Francesca as a collaborator, what is the nature of her collaboration? What did she collaborate? I mean, I haven't found anything. What sort of a collaborator was she? In what sense? Is there any record of that?
So first we have limited
in the film.
Yeah, it's in the film, but if I would try to elaborate, we have little information on the nature of her collaboration. But first of all, being associated with Germans, definitely being in a romantic relationship, being married to someone else as well. I'm not getting into the
He
personal
had a
stuff.
romantic interlude with an SS officer.
Yes, she was a lover of an SS officer, according to records,
How was
and
it possible? I mean, SS officers were not allowed to have any sort of romance with Jewish
People
women.
always do not allowed stuff, you
No, no,
know.
no, no. I know that many no, no. I know that German soldiers, there were German soldiers who had a liaison with Jewish women and German officials, but an SS officer, that I never heard of an SS officer having a romantic liaison with a woman. So that was my question. Okay.
Okay. All right. There was another question about the family, because one of the speakers in the film talks about a baby that she would have she had a baby with her. Is that anywhere in the record?
I saw a few questions about black hair, about the baby. You have to understand that we had, like, as I said, we found about 40 to 50 people who wrote about it, were talking about it, audio, video, whatever. During a different period of times, the testimonies were given. Okay, some of them were given right after the war. Some of them were given in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. One person who gave at the beginning of the 90s a testimony gave one testimony, and at the 2000 he gave a completely different testimony on the same event. Okay, it was a completely different story. Part of our film is trying to say history is stories, histoire, like in French. Okay, people are talking. People give color and give their own impressions. It's not evident. It's not. I mean, it's not facts only. It's impressions of people out of what they saw, what they heard. So it's a mixture. So somebody said, one of the testimony said that she had black hair. So we put it in. Another one said she was blonde. Another said she had a baby. And we tried to build how I would say a complicated version of all testimonies with all the nuance given to us, and try to show that it was we don't know for sure that it was her. We don't know it. We decided as filmmakers, we decided that she is the one who did it, but it's not a fact. It's an impression. Okay.
Thank you, Daniela. I think that's very important to understand all the shades of gray in a situation like this. But it is clear, and I think a question that I'd like just for you and Mordecai, for the three of you, is the incident at Auschwitz, quote unquote, the death of the SS officer and so forth, and the repercussions, the retributions. Are well known, are facts that are recorded from what I've heard from the testimonies that were made altogether. I think there were various questions in the chat box about how did she know that she was being taken to her death and so forth. So so I think, I don't know if any of you would like to say anything more to clarify what actually happened.
In every myth we have few facts. The fact it was that this train arrived to Auschwitz at this date. Another fact is that she was on the train. Another fact, she came into the gas chamber, that's for sure. I mean, to the undressing room. Another fact is Schillinger was shot. In his stomach. The SS guy was shot in his stomach. We don't know how many shots. That's why we have two versions in the film. One is 3 shots. The other one says seven shots. We don't know for sure. And then it was a woman who shot him. That's for sure. Everybody says. Nobody says something else. Okay, she was a woman. He was wounded badly and he died in the hospital the same day in the afternoon. So these are the facts. Everything else is interpretations, okay? Everything else is very likely. It's very likely that Francesca, who was a dancer, she was regularly performing in front of people. She was looking at the same level in the eyes of Nazi people because she was the lover of one of them, because she was a performer, because she was a bohemian girl, she was a dancer and everything. It was very likely she didn't come to Auschwitz hungry. She had a coat, okay? She came in a regular train, so she was in a completely different shape than everybody else who came to Auschwitz. And that made us think that it's very likely that she was the one who shot him. It's very likely. It's not sure.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for final thoughts from our insightful speakers, Mordecai and then Matan and Daniela. I'll take those thoughts you just gave us as final, unless you want to add something else. Mordecai?
Okay, so for my final thoughts, I'd like to show that I chose that picture, which of some of these. Okay, this is a photo of some of the SS personnel and the women, secretaries, typists, stenographers from Auschwitz. And this is a retreat right a few miles out of Auschwitz. From time to time, on weekends and other days, they went out and they relaxed and they had a good time and they had music. And why did I choose this photo? Because people think that all the SS men that participated in the murder of Jews and the murder of others, they were demons. We create a false image of them. And I think Hannah Arendt helped us a little bit in clarifying this point. You don't have to be an evil person. You don't have to be a person that wants to do evil in order to actually perform evil. All you have to be is a member of a larger group. If you're a member of a larger group, the social psychology comes into play. So you are part, you do what everybody does, and you don't take responsibility upon yourself. You pass the buck. An order came down. Who am I to disobey? Everybody else is obeying. Everybody else is doing it. So if the Jews have to be destroyed, there's got to be a reason for that. I don't know, but I'm going to do it. So you don't have to be. All of these people, or most of these people, had parents. Some of them were married. Some of them went home to see their families and children during breaks. They were not necessarily demonized people who simply wished to kill others. They did it as part of a job. And this is a big question. Hannah Arendt calls it the banality of evil. I don't like the term banality. Evil is not banality. It's not banal. Evil is terrible thing. And they are evil persons like Adolf Hitler. And even Eichmann was an evil person, okay? But I'm saying most of people who die innocently, they are killed by other people who are members of larger groups. All the 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust died by people in uniform, by people in larger groups, whether it was the Einsatzgruppe in Auschwitz or Treblinka, who were simply carrying out orders and they felt that they had no choice. So we got to be very vigilant when groups carry out terrible things and not individual person. Individual person cannot kill millions of people.
Thank you, Mordecai. Matan?
I will try and speak a little about not the oppressor, but the victim side. And I think the story of Francesca, with her different behaviors and different things she did in different times under occupations, shows us that also people are varied, and you can be a hero on one second and a coward on another second, and you can be and you can do shameful acts and then behave completely differently. And going into Holocaust history, many people have a tendency to come very judgmental, and every story is very nuanced and very detailed. And I think the story of Francesca shows it very vividly.
Thank you. So thank you very much for being with us. We will see you again, and perhaps I will meet you in the Sousa Mendes Museum next time. Thank you.